little bit about that thumbnail. Doing daily videos and sitting in front of the camera and taking your picture are not my thing. So I looked around my desk, grabbed an object, and made it the center of the thumbnail. I'm just trying to have some fun. Anyways, today's a fun day. Another drive down to Fresno. Going to be looking at a bunch of projects, many already in flight. Most of those are sold, but also driving by and looking at some new projects and actually meeting a investor down there who actually is down there since yesterday, driving around, learning the market as they are interested in some of our upcoming projects. So we'll be meeting them, I think, at 11 and going to show them what's what. So I will be getting on the road momentarily. But always before I do that, I always get up, drink my coffee, and really try to figure out what's going on. Because again, I believe staying current to the market, even though um, sort of a random walk sometimes, and lots of things are in this. I have found that staying current allows you to adjust and make decisions. So today's news, what I picked up on is first is we've talked about WeWork many times. They're on again, off again, IPO, their valuation slashed. Silicon Valley unicorn. Is this a sign of more things to come? But what I saw yesterday shook me to my core, at least for the folks at WeWork. This is a very WeWork-centric statement here. Really not only WeWork, but anybody in this business model. Looks like a Fed governor. Now, without naming anyone, so no names were mentioned, just the business model of renting buildings with a master lease and then subletting to smaller, undercapitalized, newer companies was a risk to the economy in the next recession. So think about that, right? What they're basically saying is, that kind of business model where you rent by the foot and then sublet by the inch is particularly dangerous when you kind of sign long-term leases in a good economy, which we're in today, and then you're trying to plan out, let's say you sign a long-term lease today for 10 years. I don't know, $100 or whatever it is. And then you plan to rent it out and receive $200, right? By little subletting and, buy by the foot, rent by the inch, whatever. But what they're saying is your long-term lease at 100 is done in a good economy. And now if we go into a recession, even in 5 years, you're not going to get 200, you're going to get 60, and you're going to go out of business. So I think a Fed governor coming out and throwing water on that entire business model is particularly dangerous. I think it was 3 weeks ago that Sam Zell came out and said, I don't get it. That business model hasn't worked since the 1950s. Everybody who has done it has gone bankrupt in the next recession. So, I'm not a genius, but I don't think I'd touch the WeWork IPO. Kind of scary. On a different front, just yesterday I talked about the trade war kind of gliding, right? Kind of having 2 weeks or at least a week and a half of positive information. And wouldn't you know it, I jinxed it. It looks like the China officials or delegation or whatever you want to call that were in town to negotiate, talk, whatever you want to call it, uh, left early, right? They had intended to go see a couple of farmers, I think one in Montana or Wyoming or somewhere, right? I don't remember. But the idea is they said, nope, no thanks, we're out of here. So I've looked to see if anybody explains why. I don't know if we've had any reaction from our side. It could be something as simple as somebody got sick, who knows? These people are people and stuff happens. Um, I haven't heard anything about a tit for tat kind of reaction. I have to assume, given I haven't heard anything or haven't read anything in 24 or 36 hours, that maybe there's something else. Maybe it was just a life event that happened to someone, maybe a leader in the delegation or something. And if so, I hope everything works out. Um, but I was impressed that there was no immediate or overreaction or because again, we got to get this thing, we got to continue that glide path. This is going to be another year or 2 year process. Two largest economies kind of working it out. So let's do that. So I think that was interesting. Something again, I'm not a stock guy. Don't ever pretend to be a stock guy. Don't take my stock advice. But something I saw today was Mastercard has rallied 50% this year, and obviously why that's interesting to me is Mastercard is obviously a credit card company. They make most of their fees on carry and all of that. What that just tells me is, in all likelihood, the consumer is still pulling out that plastic and charging. Now that I think about it, the card that I use most frequently is a MasterCard. So consumers like me and others seem to be growing with MasterCard. So again, just a whole bunch of mixed information, right? Some days the consumer is weak, sometimes it's strong. I think the consumer, at least when you look at MasterCard, is one data point in a plethora of lots, is doing quite well. Something else I saw is Goldman Sachs said get ready for October. Apparently, October over the last 30 years has been 25% more volatile than any month of the year, which should be frightening to all of us given how volatile some of the last, like August was, for example. So it could be interesting. They didn't really say why. The big thing is lots of companies maybe managing to year end, fiscal year ends, and that's kind of when they do their adjustments. I thought that was kind of weak, but at least it was logical. Right? You could see that happening. So again, right, if you're in the market, buckle up. At least according to Goldman, because again, if you thought it was wild before, they're saying it could get more interesting. Got to talk about the UAW, United Auto Workers strike. It's now been going on, I think, 6 days. And as I said in the very first video talking about this, I think the UAW had all the strength because, again, it looked like GM was losing $100 million or 150, I forget what the number was, a day because of the strike. But the longer it goes on, I think it switches, the power switches to GM because, again, people live paycheck to paycheck. You're already starting to see companies that make stuff for GM have to let go or idle production, and this can just cascade, right? The whole central could just fall into a recession, and if this goes on long enough, I don't know what long enough is, maybe 45 days, that central region just could ripple and pull the rest of the U.S. Economy down. I don't expect it to go 45 days because, frankly, again, I never looked at this. I probably should. I remember strikes being interrupted by past presidents. I think it was Reagan, who came back in and said, get to the table, stop this. You're hurting the American economy. I would expect something like that to happen probably inside 30 days if it goes on that long. So that was interesting. Another one is, I guess the last one I sort of caught on is it looks like CFOs. And now this is CFOs from around the world, right? They did US, Africa, Europe, Asia, Australia, and more than 50% in every region thought there would be a recession in the next 12 months. That's interesting. Again, people, right? Most of the people were around the world, right, by quantity. And we've already heard from FedEx that says the rest of the world's in trouble and we're kind of they cut their earnings announcement. So the information that we're collecting ties together, right? The world is in trouble, right, from an economic perspective, and a world recession seems more likely than not, at least historically speaking. And what this really means is if CFOs are generally negative, what happens, right, when the sentiment, sorry about that, still early, is negative, what happens is you typically see economic activity weaker 12 months, right? Because what happens with the CFO is they're looking out into the future, they're making budgets, they're making expenditures, expansions, buying new technology, new equipment. And if they turn negative today, you won't see the impact of that for 12 months because business investment just goes that way. But again, business investment kind of falling off in 12 months, if that also ties in with the consumer in 12 months, it could get pretty interesting. So the other thing I want to let you know about today is I've been reading lots of articles about rent control. I actually have 3 full pages of notes. So I'm going to do a video hopefully this evening, although I don't know what time I will get back from Fresno. So maybe it will be tomorrow or Monday. But I'm going to do a whole video just on rent control. If you follow this channel, you know that there is a presidential candidate pushing for national rent control. And as an American, I don't know why we're attacking capitalism and we're trying to put out populist information to get elected, not knowing that there'll be long-term impact. So I just wanted to go out and collect all kinds of data. I've done some research on Cambridge, Massachusetts, for example, which had rent control from 1974 to 95. I've done some research on San Francisco, on New York. So we're just going to have a fact-based discussion. I've got information from an economics professor at Stanford, There's Entrepreneur Magazine and lots of other sources. So if you have any information, any articles that you think I should read on rent control, specifically historical information, right? I want facts because maybe there's something I'm missing. I'd love to hear from you. Send me an email at mzuber@onerental@a-time.com, or just leave a link in the comments. Say, hey, Michael, read this article. I would love to hear from you. Because again, if I get a bunch of articles, maybe I'll keep reading and I'll create something on Monday. But the short answer is rent control, in my opinion, at least as of this morning, only helps current tenants, and the longer that it's in place, it actually hurts tenants, and it hurts tenants bad. And we'll talk about that whenever I'm ready to do that. So again, if you have an article I should read, just put the link in the description, or I don't know, comments below, and I will do my best to get to that. So, all right, everybody, have a great day. I'm off to Fresno to go look at some properties. Take care.